Welcome back to the group chat with the Village Media, where Black voices meet politics, culture, and change. And in the group chat, we're bringing you into real conversations about the topics that are trending and some that are not. From time to time, we'll have special guests. Some conversations will be crazy, others insightful, just like your group chat. So hit the subscribe button and stay locked in with us. I'm Alyssa Williams. We have Desi Brown and Anthony Holtz, and I want to check in with both of you today. So, where are we at mentally in this moment, in this week so far? How are y'all doing?
I'll go foul. I'm hanging in there. Every day, every day. We continue to. It's new things that pop up. That we have to deal with on top of everyday life, kids, family. But I'm good. We continue to move forward and find a pathway forward and continue to try to advance. And that's all we can do.
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's the summer in Texas, so it's hot, but heat doesn't bother me so much. But I was at an event this morning. It was like a teacher back to school event, just realizing that summer is really over. And my daughter, she's going to fourth grade and she's starting on August the 13th. So that's amazing to think that the summer has already basically ended. So.
I
Mhm.
know summer is flying by. We're at August. This is kind of remarkable. I was posting the other day on social like my six pictures to wrap up July, and I was like, to wrap up July, we just started. So certainly, as we're looking at all that's happening in the world, I feel like it is amazing that we are now 8 months into the year.
Wow.
The year has both gone by fast, but I think also, what I'm feeling is like so much has happened in such a short amount of time. So it's, fun that I'm so glad to be together with you all in community, but also with our audience so that we can, talk about what's happening, but also bring a little levity because I think it's needed. And we've seen that a little bit out in the news recently. So I want to start with the Epstein files. But we're not going to talk about the actual files because, listen, we all know that they're discussing weird, gross, whatever, and we also know who is probably actually in the files, right? We've established that, and we know that they're not going away, and we also think that perhaps that's a maybe a necessary thing and a unifying thing. That's maybe the one thing I feel like everyone in the country can kind of agree on. We also saw that I guess this was maybe 2 weeks ago at this point. Um, Speaker Mike Johnson closed down Congress because they didn't want to bring the Epstein files to light in Congress. They also, they're protecting the president. But the thing that I really want to focus on is the fact that, have you noticed that the president is pulling out all the stops, racist stops, to try to deflect from the Epstein files? So we have seen, I think, the MLK assassination files released, despite the family saying they didn't want them released. We have seen him call for the arrest of Beyonce and Oprah, or prosecution, excuse me. Let me get this right. Prosecution of Beyonce and Oprah in the name of finding Democratic dollars that were lost during the election. And we've also now seen him call for the arrest of former President Barack Obama for treason.
Right.
Yeah, and
So,
he also mentioned the trying to get the Washington Commanders to change their name back, and the Cleveland Guardians to change their name as well. So really, really unfortunate and crazy.
yeah. So what do we see this as? Is it deflection? There's also this other thought that I've had about being envious of Barack Obama.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about that. What are we seeing? I think on its face there is clear deflection. But what else? What else are we feeling as we're we're seeing the nonsense that's coming out.
I mean, what I see over there, I see this is something that they can't shake. A lot of things, the narrative can change quickly, throw it into something else, but this narrative hasn't changed. So it's like at times panic coming out. You know, wake up, what can I throw out there now to change the narrative? Oh, that didn't work. Let me try this. Let me try that. But I mean, we see it for what it is. It's just really just let me do anything to try to change this narrative. And of course, it's always envious of Obama. I mean, we've seen that forever. So he's gonna any chance you get, you're gonna throw Obama out there. But the thing is, this narrative isn't going to go away, and the more they do this, the more people are on all sides now. Like, well, what is he really trying to hide? Why is he going this far? So that's what I see it as. It's just basically just trying to distract. And if this don't work, I'll try this one. If this don't work, I'll try this. Okay, that didn't work. Let me try. So I mean, expect more. I mean, he's gonna, I'm a counsel. I mean, he's gonna do anything to try to just take away the attention from this.
Yeah, and it's crazy because no matter what he tries, it still goes back to that. Like,
Hmm.
unfortunately, we've had three pretty high profile celebrity deaths, and with Malcolm Jamal Warner, with Ozzy Osbourne, and with Hulk Hogan, and you still are going back to okay, but what about the files though? And then he took the trip to see his mom, which was I guess Scotland, which is even crazy, because he as much as he talked about Obama not being American,
Mhm.
now you start kind of finding out, wait, your mom is not American,
Right.
so so that's just funny that that all of this time he's been trying to distract us from other things, and this even followed him over there because there were questions there as well. So he's not getting away with this one at all. It's no matter what he tries to do.
No, and again, like I said at the top, I think it's a unifying thing that might be the one thing that our entire country can actually agree on is like, we know what's happening, and the fact that you're trying to deflect and hide makes it clear. I think we've even seen Ghislaine Maxwell this week ask to be pardoned if she shares any information. So I think that further just illustrates what went down. So
Right,
we'll leave
right.
that at that.
Mhm.
But I do want to encourage the audience, though, if there is an article that you read this week when we talk about like the targeting of Black excellence by the president today, there's an article in the Daily Beast by Don Lemon who actually just talks about when the envy started, and it started back in the I think it was 2011 Correspondents' Dinner where really Barack Obama called a spade a spade. He
Right.
said, like, listen, you want to take all these birther, you've had this like whole birther thing going on about his birth certificate that he wasn't an American citizen, yet there's all these other fake controversies, and he intrinsically tied them together and made him look like a fool. And Trump hasn't he has not let it go.
Hmm.
So we'll leave that there. So in other racist news, there is an all-white town in Missouri, and I'll just read a little bit from the Independent, who how they describe this town. It is organized by the Return to Land group, and they're a far right nationalist group that has set up a whites only community in a remote part of the Ozarks, and now they're moving to Missouri. And they describe themselves as a private membership association for individuals with traditional views and European ancestry. So I've seen this across my feed quite a bit. I think you all have as well. So I think in short, we can all collectively agree we don't really care. Like, do your
Right.
thing. But what I do want to care, or what I do want to highlight are what are our list of unhinged things that we care about more than that town. So it's going to be a little bit of a rapid fire game. So if I'm going to start with you, Anthony, you say your thing,
Mm.
I'll share mine. We'll go through.
Oh, what's some unhinged things I care about more than that? Oh man. You got me on that.
I
Start with
got
that. You go ahead. That's how.
I just okay, it's in Missouri. I just want to make sure that it's not on the way to somewhere important, and I got to drive through the city. That's the only thing I really care about.
right.
I'm from Texas, so I'm quite familiar with sundown towns,
Mhm.
places you want to make sure you get gas before you go through there. Make sure you do the speed limit. Typically, there's some speed traps along. Like, why did this go from 30 miles an hour to 70 back to 30 then 40? So I care about all kind of stuff before it comes to that town in Missouri. And, I'm sure there's five or six other towns like that in Missouri and Mississippi and
Mhm.
Alabama and Georgia and Texas. So, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Honestly, I ain't gave it a thought. Like I said, I don't want to visit. If that's what you want your own, then so be it. You can
yeah.
have it. You can do that. But yeah, I ain't
Sounds like a
actually
lot of stale food,
right. I ain't
Right,
gave it a
right.
thought.
no
I
seasoning.
right.
So
So,
a few things that I actually care about more than that. One, there's 300,000 Black women who have actually left the workforce since February. So
mhm.
I'm actually concerned as to why we're not returning, and 518,000 who have not actually returned to the workforce since the pandemic. That is a greater sign of economic instability, not just for the Black women, the Black community, but it's actually a signal for the entire American economy. The other thing I actually personally care about more than this white town is why Beyonce has not dropped the Renaissance visuals movie. I saw it in theaters. I have been waiting. I just have questions. Like I went to Cowboy Carter. I needed to find something that like I could feel good about. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and I know you're trying to figure out a reason to pull out that metallic foil
I know,
outfit.
right?
You know, at least with Cowboy Carter, there's a lot more Southern soul music and opportunities to wear those outfits again, to wear those hats and those cowboy boots and things like that.
Oh
Especially
yeah.
once
Yeah.
again being in Texas, there are plenty places that you can wear that outfit, but I don't know about the metallic foil and things like that. Maybe a space party or something. I don't know.
Yep. Again, things I care about more than this town is
Yeah.
what am I
Shoot. I
going to
mean,
do? I still have my Renaissance outfit. You were right. I still have my Renaissance silver tank. I have not worn since. I'm still
Yeah.
wondering where am I going to go with that. So anyway, that
yeah,
was
I'll tell you something. I care about the Clips album more.
oh
That's all I've been playing. All I've been playing.
Yeah.
Another thing I care more. When did Dion pull Carucci? When did that
I
happen?
have the
I
same
was
question.
now that one.
That's been for a while.
I
That was a
I'll
hard
find
one.
out now, but yeah, I guess I
Yeah.
was in the dark on that one. I was
Yeah.
told for a
You,
loop.
you and me both. That was a hard launch on the relationship. We had the video. I was like, well,
Right, right.
we'll get into that later. So, thanks for playing along. I appreciate you, y'all, jumping in or humoring me a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about Texas redistricting. This is a really, really important story that the entire country needs to pay attention to. Um, and I'm going to actually target my questions to you, Destiny. You are right there in the thick of it down in Texas. So for those who are not aware, there were. I guess I'm going to start with the floods. So the floods that took place early in July devastated communities in Texas, and there was a special session to be called to support getting grant funding to support the recovery efforts for those communities. Then Donald Trump gave Governor Abbott a call and said, hey, let's co opt this special session to also redraw the maps, which would effectively eliminate 5 Democratic seats from the House of Representatives that represent the state of Texas. And the problem with that is that, well, one, I think the writing's on the wall for Republicans that they will not win without cheating. The second piece is that it is targeting primarily Democratic districts where representation is primarily Black and Brown. So, Desi, can you give me a little bit of what you've heard, what you know about what you know about what's happening with the redrawing of the maps, and then we can dive a little deeper.
Yeah, it's definitely unfortunately because you're talking about five, spots basically where it would immediately go from Democrat to Republican. One being Jasmine Crockett's area. She's a good friend of mine, and so she's been doing a lot to represent her community. And so if you're taking that away, especially someone like her who's actually out there speaking up about issues and trying to get things done, it's going to be a problem. And then you also don't want, the whole part of, you know, democracy is having people that represent your best interests lead you. And so if there are Republicans who don't look at our views, who don't represent us, then there's no telling where we could end up with losing those five additional seats.
Mhm. That's exactly right. And what we're also hearing, there are some Democratic states that are willing to fight back. The what's unclear though is how they will be able to do that. So we have heard Governor Gavin Newsom out of California say, "Hey, fine, y'all do it in Texas. We'll redraw the maps in California." The challenge though is that California actually has an independent commission that draws their maps, and it would have to go on as a ballot measure. And so we're running out of time in terms of the midterm elections, being able to do this ahead of the midterm elections in 2026. We've also heard Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker say he'll do the same. We are also hearing that Wes Moore is coming out of Maryland and saying, "Yep, we'll do that," which is a bit. I'd say the timing is also very aligned with the state of Maryland just got FEMA funding denied from the president. So these are Democratic governors who are willing to fight back, who have stood up. But we're also seeing a few other Republican states raise their hands, like Missouri and Ohio, to say, "Hey, we'll redraw our maps as well too." So I think the message here is we're in for the fight of our lives over the next 18 months, really. And I think ultimately we're going to have to start with a 6-month strategy of how we get people mobilized and aware of what's going on. So that is the redistricting in Texas. So Anthony, do you want to just talk a little bit about, we're going to move over to Coach Prime. We're going to talk about Coach Prime. Do you want to just lead us in that conversation?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it was. I mean, I guess it came out. Everybody know he battled and successfully, bladder cancer. Um, everyone knew it was something because he kind of disappeared, or he would pop up. People would pop up want to visit him, and he was taking a leave. But to see what it was, I mean, it was alarming, because that was serious, and to see the battle he went through, but he did it in prime fashion. He did it. He took it head on. Fought it. Documented it so he can share it to the world, and now he's back, and an example that you can overcome certain things. You can, if you have faith and determination. I mean, a lot of things you can overcome, but I mean, he did it in true prime fashion. But it was, something that we all, have to take our health serious. And that's one of the things that he's showing now. No matter how much money you have, or high profile you are, I mean, it can happen to any of us, and we have to take care of ourselves. We have to get our checkups. The best way to defeat anything is getting ahead of it.
Yeah.
So to see that and see that he's continuing, because one of the things I was concerned about is he was going to step down when they were going to do the press conference. I thought it was going to be to step down.
Yeah.
And I definitely didn't want that to happen. So to see that he's back, ready to fight, lead this team, I was glad to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's your take.
Yeah, I was definitely thankful that he beat it and is on the road to recovery, but also that he's talking about it. It's very
Mhm.
important that we talk about things like that. Like he even, talked about, needing a porta potty on the sidelines during games, or needing to wear the pins, and he now depends on the pins. I think that's a great conversation to be had. And I used to work for Tom Joyner, and back in the day, he had an event called, it was like a yearly event, Take a Loved One to the Doctor Day. And
Right.
so, things like that are really important because, and Prime even mentioned that, a lot of black men don't like to go to the doctor or like to get checkups. And, and this is one of those things where this goes across, racial boundaries and things like that. It doesn't matter, how much money you have, what race you are. You need to go to the doctor. You need to see these things head on. And
Mhm.
so that was definitely a wake up call. I think the only thing that it almost reminded me of was, and of course, media and social media and different things like that are different now. But almost it took you back to like when Magic Johnson had the AIDS announcements. That was or the HIV positive announcement. That was a thing that made people think and made people take things more serious. And I think this could be one of those same type of moments and movements.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was at first a little bit questioning why you would do a big press conference, but then I think what I realized in hindsight was, if you always have lived a big you maintained a big presence, you have to be able to address something like this in a big
Right.
way. And then also just knowing what it, with the upcoming season, that people are going to see things, and so you
Hmm.
actually have to just address it and in make sure that folks are clear, and there's clear rumors. And obviously we did see that he had stepped away for a little while. Um, and I think we all, again, to your point, had suspected something, but I thought it was a really good way to let everybody know, like, even your heroes can um,
Mhm.
Right.
battle through the tough stuff.
And there was another after the press conference, they released an interview with him and Michael Irvin. So I don't know
Mm.
if people have seen that one, but he gets a lot more into some of the details. And they're great friends and have a great relationship. And so it was another way to see Dion talking about what's going on and how he's moving forward. So there will be a lot of people, I'm sure, that are affected or that have decided to go to the doctor after seeing something like this too.
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And um, I do have to kind of pivot this though a little bit to politics and how that affects. We talked about our community and making sure that we're getting the health care that we need. And we know that just a few weeks ago, the big bill passed, which guts Medicaid support assistance for folks who are in need, and elevates requirements. And bills like that really can become detrimental to our community, in particular, and
Hmm.
preventing folks from getting those preventative cares we talked about, being able to catch things early. And so, when we're thinking about how we take a loved one to the doctor, that those types of things are going to become even more critical as we're treading treading through
Right.
uncharted waters of how can we provide mutual care to one another. And I think it was really good of him to come out and be very transparent, because again, it does, just with so much going on around us, we're realizing how we have to take care of one another in order to even take care of ourselves.
Hmm.
For sure.
Okay. So I'm going to do a hard transition away from Coach Prime, and we're going to talk a little bit about Cowboy Carter. Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour just closed out in Las Vegas last weekend. There were some big surprise guests, including Destiny's Child, as well as Jay-Z and Shabuzi. It was star-studded in the crowd. Everybody was donning their cowboy hats, cowboy boots. I attended the show in Atlanta. I've never seen so many black cowboys and cowgirls, and I loved every moment moment of it. Had my own cowboy hat as well. Uh, but what I took away from her performance it wasn't just a spectacle and your typical pop sensation concert. It actually was a reclamation of culture. So, country music is deeply rooted in Black culture, and that is often lost, as well as what it takes to entirely reinvent yourself over and over and over again. One, to fit the mold of what America demands of you, but then to also set the standard for culture. So I wanted to have this conversation about Black influence on culture. And I think, as we were prepping for this, each of you shared like very clear examples of how Black culture shapes not just American culture, but actually culture globally. So, uh, Anthony, I want you to share some examples of just what you've been thinking in terms of how Black culture shapes culture overall.
Yeah, I had a call one of my colleagues lives over in Portugal, and Kendrick Lamar, Kendrick and SZA were over in Portugal, and he was just amazed that not only it sold out within 2 days, but amazed at the show that people who don't speak English knew every word to the songs. All the Kendrick songs, all the SZA songs, and then also outside of the arena, they were out in the community, like having the concert. They're out in the community playing the music, singing along. So it's like our culture is worldwide, and it does influence, it does lead, it does set the market, set the tone. And for someone who's from here, who's been living over there the past 2 years, to witness that, and for him to be amazed. And they have four or five hip hop stations over there, and different things. It's just like, and like I said, it's not an predominantly English speaking country. So it just shows that the impact that the culture has.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I take it back to even like a Michael Jackson. When Michael Jackson would perform in other countries, you'd see fans passing out, people singing the words that don't even necessarily understand the language, and you still see those effects to this day with some of the K-pop artists. Like a BTS, like a lot of them kind of sound and dance like Michael Jackson, and even with some of our other R&B artists, they can still make pretty good careers by touring over in Europe.
Right.
Whereas, like here in the States, we'll say, "Oh, that's a '80s artist, a '90s artist." Sometimes, artists kind of expire to us in a
Sure.
sense, especially when you're talking about pop culture. But you'll still see artists going on tour in Europe and different places like that on a regular basis, and being able to continue to make a living there. And now you're starting to see that wave finally come back this way. So it's crazy to see that. You know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining the group chat. I think that's a perfect place to end. Thank you all for joining the group chat where we talk about politics, culture, and how what we can do to change the communities that we see. Uh, I'm Alyssa Williams, Desi Brown, and Anthony Holt.